Hi, I'm Sherry Murfeld. I'm a first grade teacher at Red Oak.
Hi, I'm Patty Holland, and I'm a first grade teacher at Red Oak.
What system does your school district use to identify students who are at risk?
Okay, I'll start. We use a DIBBLS, and it stands for Dynamic Indicator of Basic Early Literacy Skills. We call it DIBBLS. It's a program out of Oregon, and we start off the year within the first 2 weeks, and we quiz the kids on. Actually, it's a minute test, and we have to. First, they start off with the alphabet, and they have a minute to tell us all the words, all the letters, and then we go into nonsense words and like KIKWOJ to see if they know their vowel sounds, and then we add in our own oral reading fluency, because at the beginning of the year kids aren't supposed to know how to read. And what's the other one besides? Oh, phonemic. And then tell them about that.
And then we do the phonemic awareness, where we give them the word, and then they have to give us the parts or the sounds of the words.
So, like if it was Sam, you'd have to say s, a, m. And some kids, can't do that, or most kids can. So we just try to figure that out. So that's one of our indicators.
And what we really look at after we've tested all the first grade children, then we really look at the oral reading and how many words that they can read in a minute. And then we also look at the nonsense words, because that really tells us if they know their consonant and their short vowel sounds. And with that, that's how we group them.
At the beginning of the year.
The Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literary Skills, or DIBBLS, are a set of standardized, individually administered measures of early literacy development. They are designed to be short, like 1-minute fluency measures used to regularly monitor the development of pre-reading and early reading skills. You can enter DIBBLS data online and generate automated reports. Reports are available by student, class, school, and district. At what grade level are students generally first exposed to intervention?
Do they start in kindergarten? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Intervention, it could be with the counselor could come in and take the child out and talk to her if they're have emotional problems. As far as academic,
they have their aide.
Kindergarten does have an aide that helps them. I think each kindergarten teacher gets an aide for maybe an hour and 15 minutes each a day. And then in first grade, we have what we call a learning center, where the kids get pulled out of the classroom for 30 to 40 minutes every day to get extra help with their reading.
And then in third, fourth, and fifth grade, they also have a math tutor or basic math teacher who pulls the children out who are at risk with math. And she's been very successful.
Okay. And how is it determined which children are eligible for this pull-out program or this extra intervention help?
The DIBBLS.
If
they scored below,
okay, I'm right there.
at risk, the kids that are at risk, if they scored below, they would be determined. And
so it's a benchmark score?
Yes,
okay.
yes. And then that's how we divide our kids up into high, medium, and low, so that only the kids that are in the lower reading group would go to the learning center, so it doesn't and they're pulled out during their reading time, so it doesn't affect the other subjects.
How do you employ leveled grouping in your first grade classrooms to ensure lower achieving students are receiving adequate support?
After we have tested all the first graders, then we look at the scores, and we look at their nonsense word score, and we look at the also if they know their letters, but most of them do. But it's the nonsense word with the consonant and the short vowels. And then we also we give them this extra test on reading fluency. And that really can tell us if they don't know any words at all and how they reacted when they had the sheet put in front of them. From there, we take those scores and we take the bottom 20 and we put them in our first reading group, and then we'll take the next 20 and we put them in the middle group, and then the high readers we put them all in basically a gate type program for those children. And then the learning center consists of one teacher and two aides, and the 20 children are split into, during their reading group, are split into two groups of 10, and after the teacher works with them for 20 minutes, then 10 children will leave. And usually the teacher has a parent aide with her, so that way she can split them up even into smaller groups of 5 and 5. And the teachers will work with her group of 10, and then the Learning Center works with their group of 10. And then about after 30 to 35 minutes, then they switch. And then the children do the same lessons, but it's a different group of children.
So in Reading Center, are they working on specific skills?
Okay. Then at Learning Center, they start out with what's called
Foundations.
and they're just practicing how to make the letter, what the sound of the letter makes. Then they kind of add the consonants with the vowel, and then how to blend it together.
And then they add digraphs and
And the
they
blend.
zero in more on the skills.
Right.
Which we also do in our reading group, but they zero in on it and they have smaller groups.
And so it's kind of intensive.
Right.
Okay.
And what it basically is, it's a review too of what the skills that we are teaching here in the classroom too.
Okay.
So they're getting a double dose.
And we had to do that because when kids come into first grade, we have kids that are reading chapter books and we have kids that are just beginning to learn their letters. So we found here that's what worked for us, is to divide the kids up and differentiate that way.
Okay, great.
What would a typical language arts block look like in a classroom which supports your lower achieving students? How does it differ from other classrooms with higher achieving students?
Well, I could start off. We start off
Okay.
the day with skills, maybe going over using a chart and going over the skills of the day. More phonics with whiteboards, forming the letters, and then writing words with the vowel that we're using for that week. And then you can talk about your program. And then
In my program, I have the middle children, and I'm pretty much sticking with what the book has, Houghton Mifflin, and their skills, and then maybe adding some different activities from that I have.
Readers'
And-
theater.
Right, readers theater, and just different activities. And then the third group, who's our high readers, she'll go over the story, which takes very short time.
she'll probably just
because
read
they
it
can-
once that week.
Yeah, they know how to read it, and then she'll do different skills, and she expands on the skills. And so they're still sticking with the first grade level, but she expands across instead
Well,
of
so
up.
like she'll have a group of 5 kids reading the same chapter book, and then she does more reflective thinking, and they write on what they're reading, and just more at their level. Where in my group, I have the first group, and we'll read the story every day. Wherein maybe they might read it twice, and then the higher group might read it just once. Where I have to read it every day, so they'll by the end of the week they know it pretty well. And then I'll also in my small groups. It's more of I'm helping them with the worksheet. In the other classes, they pretty much can do it independently, where in my class we have to help them with each, pointing to number 1 and doing it together. And then we zero in on more of the skills, and then we're reading phonic from our phonics library book too, where all the story has all the vowels that we're working on that week, words with the same vowels.